The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
And now we can actually start the meeting. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Royal Palm Beach Council meeting. This is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. It is 6:30 p.m., and I am now calling the meeting. Oh, okay. It's interesting because I got a collar thing, too. All right. Anyway, calling the meeting to order, and if you would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Welcome once again. Always good to see a full chamber. And we really know why. That is actually our second item. Our first item actually is to record that, for the record, all members of the council are present.
Yes, Mayor, I will. Thank you.
And our second, and perhaps most important, agenda item this evening is a recognition of the 8U Royal Palm Beach Softball All-Star Team's 2025 Florida State Championship. So let's start off with a good round of applause, all right? So tonight it is my great honor to recognize the outstanding achievement of our very own Royal Palm Beach 8U Softball All-Star Team, proudly known as the Pink Bombers, and dressed appropriately so. This remarkable group of young athletes represented our village with excellence and determination at the 2025 Babe Ruth Florida State Championship held June the 26th through June the 30th in Lake City. Competing among more than 100 teams across 6 age divisions, the Pink Bombers dominated their division with a perfect 5-0 record. Absolutely. That is truly remarkable, demonstrating both skill and teamwork at the highest level. Now, their journey culminated, listen to this, in an incredible 22-4 victory over the Jacksonville Beach Thunder in the championship game, securing the state title in the 8U Open Division. This victory is not only a testament to the hard work and dedication of the players, but also to the coaches and the parents and the supporters who helped guide them along the way. I would like to give special thanks to the coaching staff, and especially to Coach Stephen Pointer for his outstanding coaching job. Steve is also, of course, a member of our very own Parks and Rec Department. I want to thank him for his leadership and his commitment to the team's success. On behalf of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, we congratulate the Pink Bombers on their championship season and thank them for bringing pride and inspiration to our community. So thank you all, and would you all join us in front here? Let's give them a round of applause again while they're coming up to the front. So would you all come on up front, and if the council would join me, we will take a photo that hopefully everybody will get a copy of. I'm sure this is not your first photo op, though, right? I mean, I'm sure you guys have been doing all these photo ops now since you're champs and that kind of thing. Steve, well done. Well done. So, oh, we got everybody? Here we go.
Get friendly with each other.
Act like you like each other. I know you like each other. You couldn't have won if you didn't like each other. All right. Anybody else? Before everybody runs? No, wait, we can wait. Yeah, cheese, champions. How's that? All right. Well done, guys. Great job. Thank you so much. Thanks again. Really appreciate it. Great job. Fantastic. Fantastic. So, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Okay, so now what you got to do is hang that around your neck.
I gotta get another one.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. Congratulations. I just saw the ring, by the way. Very, very cool. Yes. Looks like a ring we've seen before. Like Lenny's, exactly. So we'll give everybody, we'll take kind of an informal in-place couple of minutes here to allow everyone to leave. I'm a little disappointed. I thought they'd want to hang around for the entire council meeting.
They don't want to hear the proclamation?
I'm just shocked.
But it's a proclamation. People don't come out for proclamations.
That's a really good name. That's a really good name.
Okay.
They need to do that. It's cool.
So isn't that fantastic?
Yes.
Nothing like a local team of young athletes supported by our Parks and Rec in many, many ways. Great thing, fantastic thing. Congratulations to them and their parents and everybody else involved. It's great. Okay, I'm going to, without objection, change the order slightly of the agenda. And I'd like to, first of all, welcome Representative Ann Gerwig and ask her if she would like to step up to the mic and give us a bit of an update and maybe an opportunity to have a little bit of a conversation about some of the things that are going on. And then we can get on with the rest of the agenda. Welcome, Representative Gerwig. We're delighted to have you here. Yeah.
So it was a very exciting session in Tallahassee. Some of you may know that the session is 60 days, except when I show up to the table and it turns into 105 days.
Did you make it to 105?
I think it is. No, it was not my fault. I'm sorry. Okay, is that better? All right. Yeah, so this year our session, instead of 60 days, we spent 105 days. And honestly, I didn't know any better because I'd never been there as a representative before. So it's kind of good. The freshmen, I have to tell you one inside baseball thing about, you heard when everyone was clapping, right? And up in Tallahassee, if you're ever there and we're recognizing someone, we just don't stop clapping. The person we're clapping for gets very uncomfortable, like they get bright red, and we're still clapping. It might be some, officer of the year but we just keep clapping. And then, like the freshmen amongst ourselves, there's, I think, 26 of us, we decided we would pick one guy, and when he stopped clapping, the rest of us would stop. But otherwise, we would all still. So if that guy is in a rowdy mood, if Representative John Albert's in a rowdy mood, we just keep going. And it's really kind of awkward, though, when you're being recognized and they just don't stop clapping.
For that person, in case they're not there.
Alternate. So if he's not there, I guess we're all going to have to wing it.
Apparently.
But it is my pleasure to serve a very small part of Royal Palm Beach, but you do have part of my district, and it's my pleasure to serve you up in Tallahassee. I've enjoyed it way more now that I'm home, and I can look back. It's like nostalgia, right? Once it's over, you look back fondly on it. But I got 2 bills passed, which is awesome for a freshman. My first one is unfortunately not a very happy bill. It's the one we are recognizing today. It's the Fentanyl Awareness, August 21st in the state of Florida. It now aligns with a national day of awareness and education on the fentanyl crisis. So right now over in Wellington, my legislative aide is presenting on my behalf for their Fentanyl Awareness Day. They're going to be the school district practiced it today and had a discussion about it in the appropriate grades. And the Palm Beach State College is going to be doing an event next week at the Loxahatchee Groves campus, and the following week at Lake Worth. The 21st of August didn't work out for Palm Beach State. Their kids weren't back yet. We weren't thinking about that when we selected the date, because it does just align with a national day. So that was a bill I was very proud to get passed. Some more inside baseball. That one kept my bill number. I think it was 159. If your bill goes through on your side before the Senate side, then it keeps the House bill number. If it gets passed through the House or the floor, and either one, that's the bill that the number is adopted. So the fentanyl awareness bill, I got that through first. My second bill was the middle and high school start time bill, which gave some flexibility to the schools. I know the parents, yeah, you can just keep going too. John's not here to tell you when to stop. But that one, the parents, the teachers, and the school district, we can all recognize that children need more sleep, particularly in middle and high school, than they're getting. But having football practice before school, because some of the fields aren't lit and you're going to be practicing now, you have to have light, it was not going to get kids any more sleep. The kind of scheduling that it did to Palm Beach County was enormous. And oddly enough, the small districts had an even bigger problem with it. They run all their buses the same time. They had more of a problem with it than the large school districts. The ones in the middle were actually kind of able to adopt it and have been very satisfied. But to me, that's the way this should operate. If you see the real value in it and you want to buy an entire fleet of buses that we don't have, and you want to divert education money to that because you wanted to do something that was almost untenable. So we got that through and gave some breathing room for our schools. Also, I fought very hard in the pre-K-12 budget committee for the ACE, the IB, the CTE funds, the special class funds that were, it became a little controversial because they had students that were in remedial classes in the same subject that they were in AP classes in. The question is, does every student need to be in these more expensive classes that do have a higher cost generated? And they don't. But my point was, we asked the school districts to provide rigor. Okay, we said, make sure that these kids were getting every bit of learning out of them that we are possibly able to get. So they supplied rigor, and a lot of it was through AP, ACE classes, and those kinds of advanced placement and dual enrollment classes. So if we didn't want them to do that, we should have had that conversation beforehand. So I think it was a good learning curve for everybody to determine the best way to use the funds, but it was restored, so the school districts have that ability again. Also, we had a very conservative speaker and an even more conservative governor. So we passed a budget that is $3.8 billion, that's with a B, less than last year's budget. You guys know, because you have a budget, you know that number goes up no matter what you do, it goes up. Ours went down, $3.8 billion. So the benefit is for the taxpayer in that. I do look at it as a benefit in some ways, but it also made a tough year for appropriations. But I was able to bring home all my appropriations, so some really good ones. I can talk to you about that offline if you'd like. Some great projects, one for Wellington, two for Green Acres, some stormwater, sewer extension, septic to sewer conversions for Green Acres, which has been an ongoing project, and they were able to continue that. So I'm proud of the work I did. There were things that didn't get done. Only about 200, I think it's 215 bills got passed, which is a very low number. Some people celebrate that unto itself, because sometimes when we pass bills, we don't think about all of the consequences, just like the middle and high school start time bill. So sometimes things bubble up where we didn't realize that was going to be a side effect of that really great idea we had. So the other thing I will share, it's 120 people in my side, okay, in the House. I'm one of 120 people, and at first it was a bit overwhelming, but as you get to know them, you realize it's a room full of 120 superlatives. And when I say that, sometimes they're not great things, like most likely to, When you think superlative, think there's all kinds of categories, but I have to tell you, I really love that group of people, and especially the freshmen that came in together. Very bipartisan thoughts, very bipartisan process, at least in the freshman class, thinking about the things that we need to bring home to our communities. So with that, I will answer any questions if you have about any of the controversial ones. I have information. I also brought my legislative update that I can leave here. It's like a newsletter, talks about what we did, has great pictures of there's a 13th floor. Okay, so when you go to a hotel, do you ever have a 13th floor? No. Where do I get? The 13th floor. So I'm on the east wing of the 13th floor, so there's a picture of my suite mates in there too. So it always shocks me though when I push that. Well, you don't push the button anymore. You push the button on the outside. You guys that have been to Tallahassee know we have even our own system for elevators. They don't even work like the ones you normally see. So there's a learning curve, but now I forget when I get in an elevator, I don't push a button. I'm like, you already knew where I was going when you opened that door. So
I'd be concerned that when I push the 13th floor and the door is open, there'd be nothing there.
I do. Every time it opens, I think, is this for real? Because, yeah, I've worked in a few buildings and none of them had a 13th floor. So.
Any of the council have any comments or questions for Representative Gerwe? Yes, Councilwoman Sparks.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Congratulations. I'm sure it was exciting. You had a lot of fun.
It didn't feel that way the whole time, but
Some of the time anyway. But my question is, do you think that there will be some maybe work done on the insurance crisis that we're still feeling in the next session?
Well, you asked the hard question. Thank you. Thank you for that great question. That's the other thing you always say. Thank you for that great question. No, so this year was difficult because there was some pressure to undo the tort reforms that passed 2 years ago. So I guess this would be year 3 now. And they were just starting to regulate the market a bit. And there was a bill that was really pushed hard by leadership, and it would have undone those tort reforms that I think are seeing us get the market stabilized. And it's going to take a little more time on that. But the big problem is the cost of housing has gone up. The cost of insurance has gone up because replacement of your home is costing more now. When it comes to the crisis of, one thing they did is My Safe Florida Home, we had budgeted $400 million out of the House. And at the end of the day, the governor line item some of that out. So it didn't end up with $400 million, which statewide is not enough really to help our residents with hardening and sustainability, those kinds of things you can do to your house that lower your costs on your insurance too. So we had a couple things working against us, but I think I stood very strong and did not vote for that tort reform bill that I think would have hurt, particularly me and you, because you're most likely not going to sue your insurance company one day, but all of our rates go up every time those major lawsuits happen. And right now, it's up to the judge at the end of the decision in a court case how the legal fees get assigned, and that would have undone that again. So I think that what I did was right. I hope that it doesn't kill me next year in session when I get back and they go, that's that girl that didn't do what we said. But I explained it. I had to explain it to 4 levels of leadership. And I explained from my personal experience why insurance is hurting all of us. The costs of insurance are hurting all of us. My engineering firm, you guys know them, they've done a little work around here. We would not touch a condominium assessment, the studies that have to be done for condominiums that are 3 floors and over, because if we did, it would quadruple our errors and omissions insurance. We have some of the best. I'm not here to market for GM2, which I don't own a portion of anymore at all, but I'm not here to market for them, but they have some of the best concrete experts in the world. People from all over the world call Don Beers, who's one of our engineers there, and ask him questions about masonry. we could do it quicker, we could do it closer to home and for less money, but we won't touch it because of the costs it would bring. And that's how I explained it to the speaker when he asked me, why do you think this is a bad idea, what we're doing? I said, we're costing everyone. Every time insurance goes way up, everything across the board goes way up with it. And that's one of the reasons that our residents are having a hard time even getting the assessments done. So, and he is a man of his word. I adore him. If he says, Rep. Gerwig, on Speaker Perez, and we're going to jump off a cliff, I go, okay, I'll go first because I adore him. He is a man of his word.
Okay.
He told us it was going to be a member-driven process this year, and it was. That made it hard. I will say 120 people with different ideas makes things really hard, but he stuck to his word, and I valued that.
So just to follow up, if I can, on that question about insurance, I've heard people say that, Citizens Insurance Corporation is a potential solution, and not really clear why that isn't used to help us deal with this, what feels like almost out of control increase in rates.
I get that. Well, one of the reasons Citizens was created, because guess who Citizens is? It's us.
Yeah,
It's all
right.
of us,
Yep.
all of us. So your private insurance company, I have State Farm at my house, your private insurance company is charged to help support Citizen because Citizen can't support itself either. The state of Florida is constantly having to come alongside and deal with that issue because we live in a peninsula and we live in the subtropics. And when one of those big storms comes through, like we saw on the West Coast, do you really want to be in the insurance business, Mr. Mayor? Or would you rather try to get out of it and let them, because it's not just your company, it's not just Citizens. We would really be buying all of that liability statewide if we didn't have the private insurers. And the private insurers are carrying part of the costs of Citizens now. So we're trying to get out of that market because you don't really want to be in that market. And the reinsurance has gone up significantly. Now, I will go back and say one thing happened at the beginning of session, and I'm not on that committee, and if you're not on a committee, you don't have the same interaction with the issue that you'd like to. Some of the insurance companies were claiming to have no profits for 10 years. Look, we still made no profit, so we're going to have to raise our rates. Well, they were lying. I know. Think about that. Business people lying to you. So accountability is a big problem, and that committee is working on accountability with those firms because it wasn't true. And when they tracked that down, it was a problem. I will tell you that flood insurance, the National Flood Insurance Program, which you guys, every year you send out your information about it, you encourage your residents to carry flood insurance because it's very inexpensive. We live quite a bit inland here. It's very inexpensive. Florida is a donor to the National Flood Insurance Program. Think about that. If we tried to nationalize homeowners insurance, or we might end up in the same situation we are with the flood insurance because we think of ourselves as high flood risks, but we really only are when we're coastal. You come this far in and we're not high flood risks, you still don't want to flood, and it's a good insurance to buy. That's why we encourage our residents, I know you do, encourage your residents to buy that inexpensive National Flood Insurance Program, but we are donors.
Well, it's a complicated problem, that's for sure. I want to see if anyone else has any questions. Jan?
I do. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate it. So, following up with Sylvia's easy question, I'm going to ask an equally easy question,
Oh, boy.
right? If you had your crystal ball out, what does the conversation next session look like around property tax?
Well, property taxes is another thing that I did ask to be on that, and I was not put on that committee. I keep piping in. Toby Oberdorf is a friend, and I knew him before I served up there, and I've been piping in because he's the chair, one of the chairs of that. I keep reminding them that the reason we have property taxes is because those are service items that are provided by local government. There is a nexus behind that. If we remove that nexus, then you create a community that has no personality. And I love to talk about North Palm Beach because they're not you and they're not me. They don't have mailboxes in the village of North Palm Beach. They decided they don't like the look of that. And you can imagine why, if you think about it. It does look a little different. They stick out. Someone hits one once in a while. They pay the U.S. Postal Service to walk the mail up to the door. And that's how they manage that. They don't have garbage day like you and I have. They don't put their garbage cans out. The garbage service includes that person walking up and getting it from the side of your home, carrying it down, dumping it in. Imagine how good that looks every day. There's never a garbage can out by the side of the road. There's never a dog that got into one and spread it around. But that's a level of service issue. And when we look at property taxes, if we try to just say, oh, we'll find the money some other way for all the services you need, you don't know what services we need. Our services are different in the village of Royal Palm Beach, the village of Wellington, the city of North Palm Beach, and you moved there. We're big on vote with your feet, right? When we talk about school choice and providing scholarships to take that money wherever you want, the parents are voting with their feet. I said, we're voting with our feet when we choose our community. We know our millage rate when we buy our home, or else we don't have a very good realtor or a good investigation skill on our own. So we pick these things, these places that we live, based on a level of service. And you really can't strip that from the conversation. So those are what I'm doing. I don't know what they're going to do. It's a difficult one because none of us like the thought of someone being priced out of their home. So we've done something to keep the price down with Save Our Homes, where it can only go up 3% if you're homesteaded. I think the conversation will probably maybe increase homestead for everyone. But that throws me for a little bit of a heartburn too, because now people who rent homes, who can't afford to buy a home or are renting an apartment, those costs are going to keep going up because they're not homesteaded. So the question really becomes, when we take money from one and don't give it back to the community, I end up being a black sheep up there. But so far, they haven't figured me out completely, so don't enlighten them so I can still be effective. But honestly, those are the kind of conversations that a lot of people don't have. There's people up there that have never served in local government that don't know the difference between an improvement district fee that you might be. I don't know how Royal Palm does. Your surface water is through your, I think it's a municipal tax.
Yeah.
Okay, so some places do it that way. Some people have, Lake Worth Drainage District or Acme, and different ways to collect unit taxes instead of in just millage rates. So they thought I knew too much to put me on that committee. That's my theory.
That is very unfortunate because I know you're very familiar with the phrase home rule hero. You were one on several occasions. So one of the things that we're hoping is that you will find a way to educate, inform, because it's so easy to make these decisions without that information. When you add the information in, it gets really hard.
Right. And that's what I'm doing. And I can't always do that on the floor. Sometimes it happens in the lunchroom. Sometimes, actually the discussion about fluoride happened because it was very popular in Wellington. I actually, always supported it and polled it myself, and it was supported by 2/3 of the residents in Wellington years ago when I polled it. I don't know if it's that way now, but either way, that came out because of a ag bill. And I was not on the committee. I was not on that committee, so I had no way to even weigh in except for the lunchroom.
We really appreciate it.
I tried.
Does anybody have any other thing they really feel they would like to bring up tonight? If not, we know where
a comment.
Representative lives. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for the work on that school time start bill, because I'm on the SAC for the high school, and and just watching news reports, I mean, we didn't have enough school bus drivers to begin with, and what we were going to need to have to hire, and like you said, do you want to spend your money on more school buses or more teachers? I mean, it really, and I'm surprised to hear that the smaller districts were having problems as well, but a big district with a lot of population like us would really have messed things up. So, as a parent, in school and just investment in education, that was a big win. And thank you for being an advocate on that, because that was one of the things that was really
It came
going to
from
shake up
nowhere.
lives.
It just came from nowhere. I agree. It was, but I want to challenge you, Mr. Mayor. When you talk about home rule, I want you to remember why some of these ideas happen up there. There was a group of pediatricians who realized that our kids aren't getting enough sleep, and they determined that that was the way for our kids to get more sleep. So when we get people asking us to fix something from Tallahassee, and they just wanted like a screwdriver or a little hammer, sometimes you get a 16-ton weight instead. So when you ask for, hey, I want one of those, or maybe we should do it that way, remember that by the time it gets through Tallahassee, it could turn into a whole new fleet of school buses that your district can't afford.
We really appreciate you representing us so well. We always welcome you here anytime. And
It's beautiful. I love your facility. I can't believe I hadn't been in here, but it's really well done. Congratulations on what a great complex and a beautiful building you have.
well, thank you again for your service. We really appreciate both your previous service and your current service. We really appreciate that. Thanks so
Well,
much.
you know, we were a little competitive over there, but we don't have to be competitive anymore, so thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I have a proclamation to read, which has to do with Hunger Action Month. And it's a focus a bit on one organization in Florida, Feeding South Florida. And on the one hand, we don't often do that, but then on the other hand, we had a special relationship with Feeding South Florida for 2.5 years as they provided food on a regular basis every Wednesday, I think it was. Gee, I used to know the numbers, like 4 million pounds of food, 80,000 families, huge, big deal. So anyway, this is Hunger Action Month, and this is the proclamation. Whereas 1981, Feeding South Florida has, since 1981, Feeding South Florida has worked to address hunger and food insecurity in the village of Royal Palm Beach and other places by providing our community immediate access to nutritious food and other vital resources and support. And whereas hunger does not discriminate, it knows no race, religion, or age. In South Florida, approximately 1 million individuals face hunger every day. Food should not be an impossible choice for the village of Royal Palm Beach. And whereas Feeding South Florida leads hunger and poverty advocacy efforts in our community while transforming lives through innovative programming and education that provides economic growth and overall well-being. And whereas the village of Royal Palm Beach is therefore committed to supporting Feeding South Florida so that together we can achieve a hunger-free South Florida. Therefore, it is resolved that I, Mayor Jeff Amara, do hereby proclaim September 2025 as Hunger Action Month and call upon the good people of the village of Royal Palm Beach to join me in supporting Feeding South Florida during this month of action. Signed and sealed this 21st day of August 2025. So I thank them for their effort, as well as other nonprofits that serve the community well with a variety of sources of food. So with that said, then I want to move on to reports. So let's begin with Councilwoman Rodusky.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I, along with my colleagues, the mayor and Councilwoman Sharps, attended the Florida League annual conference. There were really some sessions, and I just want to highlight a couple. The one that I really appreciated was it was a building effective board and city manager relationships. I don't know if my colleagues got to attend that session, but I thought it was fantastic. The panel was made up of 2 city managers and 2 electeds from 2 cities. And really talking about the challenges between the 2 as well as other council members and staff, and a few takeaways. The best advice I heard given to council members, remember to stay in your lane, and just really understanding what our role is. the best advice I heard given to a city manager when talking to council members was count to three so that they get a chance to interpret. But I was really happy to learn that we as a village have established some of the best practices that they talked about: strategic plan, rules of engagement, code of ethics, and just really pleased that we have those safeguards and those safety nets in place. One idea that came out of that conversation was the public briefing, and the city manager said that oftentimes during the year, outside of a strategic planning session, they have public briefings. This allows council to bring new ideas to the board while not being in strategic planning, but a listening session. So it's a public meeting, but yet it's not open for public conversation. It's simply ideas. And I thought, while I don't think we need to have one every month or every quarter. It would be nice maybe to have one maybe 6 months after our strategic planning session, so that we see what we've done for the first 6 months. If there's any new ideas, doesn't mean we're going to adopt them, but it gives us an opportunity to sort of start to talk about these ideas. Oftentimes we bring lots of ideas to the strategic planning session, and I feel we don't have enough time to really talk about the benefits, the outcomes, and all the other advantages to some of the ideas we're bringing. So just one idea to throw to the team. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was we had some really amazing keynote speakers. John Meacham, the historian, his commentary was beautiful. And then we had another gentleman, Ryan Leake, very inspirational, very open to communication. But what we didn't get was the gentleman who had a family emergency. And so his name's Jefferson Fisher. Jefferson Fisher is a trial attorney by trade, and he is really his superpower is how to communicate. So you can find him on TikTok, you can find him on Reels, but here's the interesting thing. I was sharing this with Ray the other day, and lo and behold, after our meeting, I flipped the thing, and there he was. He says, I'm in Target. I want to show you what I have. His new book. And it's called The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More, which is probably the whole point of why he was at the Florida League. His short little videos have really good advice on how do you talk to people who gaslight you, or how do you talk to people who insult you? How do you talk to people who lie? Anyway, so I'm on chapter 2. It's really good. Just thought I'd pass that along. Really awesome. And then just a couple quick notes. Recreation Advisory Board met on July 21st. We heard a presentation from Steve Pointer talking about, he's our events and facilities manager at the Cultural Center, and the number of events we have is just exploding. It's really amazing how many events we have over there. Another show and tell, we have the new Community Connection. So residents pick up the guide, see all the opportunities you have in there for recreation. It's really wonderful. And then tomorrow is the end of summer party for our seniors. It's from 12 to 2 at the Rec Center with food, dancing, raffles, and more. And then September, I think that's 5th, in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we've got Latin Groove Project performing, and there will be food trucks. And then really happy to announce that Shakespeare by the Palms will be doing Macbeth in, we don't have I don't know, we do have an exact date. February 18th or 14th is what they were talking about. I don't know if that has been confirmed, but it's going to be at Veterans Park. So a little more intimate, a little more Shakespearean, and the organization's very excited about that. So that's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to comment on the Shakespeare in the Park. I was talking with somebody the other day who had really not a lot of experience here in Royal Palm Beach. You know, the one thing they talked about?
Shakespeare.
Yep. Interesting how something like that can really catch on and become part of the character. So that's great. So thank you. Councilman Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I, too, have heard from many people that don't know our village except for Shakespeare in the Park and have visited, so that's awesome. I'll be brief in my report. I do want to mention for Councilman Radusky the public briefing I find very interesting 6 months after strat plan, and I would be open to doing something like that if the council would like that. I was happy to see we did the surveys to the Education Advisory Board and the principals, got those back. And then I saw a summary email to us today. Very happy about that. And I know I have a gut feeling our mayor will be talking about that, so I'll just, mention it. The next item is just administrative. I've noticed in a lot of other elected boards, usually they sit in number order in their seats. And I notice we don't. And my understanding is that's come about over the years for many different reasons. And I wanted to bring up to the council if we could possibly be in number order of our seats, with the mayor, of course, being in the center.
How would that be? The 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a thing? 1, 2, 3, 4?
Right. I've heard, like how our portraits are set up out there in Village Hall. I don't know how the rest of the council feels about
What
it.
What does the council think of it?
Well, my thought is, I don't really care where I sit, but whether it be by number order or by, like, for example, I'm in court. The one in the middle is the Chief Justice or the presiding judge, the mayor. The one to the right is the most senior judge. The one to the left, and it's usually a 3-judge panel, is the next senior judge. And at the Florida Supreme Court, it's the same way. That's another way of doing it as well. And, I have no problem with sitting wherever.
So maybe we could turn to the village manager. Go ahead.
I'm perfectly happy to sit here because I realize I'm the last little exclamation point on this sentence. I'm good with that. As far as the pictures are concerned, when I was talking to the city manager, I was commenting how great it is because it's male, female, male, female, male. I like that. It looks good. All those pictures are professionally done, and we look excellent sitting up there on that wall. And quite a few people who have come to visit this city village hall have noticed that those pictures look really, really good up there. So that's just my opinion. I don't care where you put me either, just as long as I'm able to see over the dais.
Mr. Mayor,
That's a whole nother topic.
can I respond to Councilman Sharps? I
Absolutely.
agree with you about the portraits. I think they all look great. And I do like that order you mentioned, and that's why I'm bringing this up.
Do you have an opinion that you'd like to express?
Well,
Or one that you don't want to express, either way?
no, I'm happy to share my thoughts. I'm number 4. I'm in seat 4. So whether I'm on this end or that end and we go in order, doesn't really matter. I sort of like this seat. I've been here for a while. And if we want our pictures to match, we just fix the pictures out
Right,
there.
you move the pictures. That's the way people were sitting was in place before the pictures arrived and before we moved into this building.
Right.
But again, the thing is, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but as Councilman Miller brought up, we get to decide this. So, if it's something we want to do, then let's talk about it and do whatever we're going to do.
Mr. Manager, would you come up with some options so that we can consider that?
He did say, well, you put the pictures up wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna ditto.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm gonna ditto Richards, and this is where you guys are most comfortable, and it changes during elections too. So I don't know if it's something. And that's actually what we've done. We've just filled seats as people have come and gone.
All right.
We've only once in the 20-some years I've been here, we've had the discussion on where somebody sits, but that was not for reasons that this council should ever have.
That was an entirely different discussion. So there seems to be enough of a mix here that maybe
just move on.
Status quo is good for the time being. If we want to bring it up again, we can kick it around during strategic planning.
Not to belabor the point, but if we went in order, are you one?
I'm number one.
All right, so it
You're
would
two?
really be just
And you're
switching
3.
you and Sylvia.
So that'd be it.
I'm not suggesting we do,
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out,
That's,
I was just trying to figure out where we were.
for the time being, if it's all right with the council, let's just leave it as it is. And when we get to strategic planning again this year, we can kind of kick that around as a kind of a fun discussion. But at this point, unless somebody feels very strongly about changing what we currently have, then let's just leave it as it is. That's okay.
I'm not done my report, but thank you. Appreciate the council's time on that. I didn't really want to waste time, so I apologize, but thank you for listening. And I will finish my report with my monthly AI tip for the council. If anyone has ChatGPT and pays for it, like I pay for the $20 a month version, they have now released agents. And what an AI agent can do is you may go to your AI, whichever one you use right now, and type in something, and then maybe 2 weeks later you go type in the same prompt again to get updated information. Now with agents, you could set it up where it does this for you every week or every month. It automates actions and tasks for you. I highly recommend checking out the ChatGPT agents. I think Gemini calls them gems. I'm not really sure what Microsoft Copilot calls them. But really helps automate my life now. So it's really cool.
Okay, that's great.
That's my report. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
The only thing I'd report is I went to the code enforcement hearing this month, and I just had to, commend not only the magistrate and the code enforcement officers, the staff did. I mean, they did a lot of work, and they work extremely hard. So I would like to acknowledge and appreciate that. And again, for the most part, for our residents as well, you know what? Nobody's happy being in a code enforcement hearing and having to come up. But if you watch and you see what's going on, you see the important work code enforcement does in maintaining the, standards of the community and what keeps Royal Palm looking good. So I just wanted to thank them for that. And it really did, people were heard, everything seemed fair, and, justice was being done, and they were doing the business of the village. So I appreciate it. And Mitty works hard at those, I'm sure, as you know, Keith. So God bless you guys for doing that. I appreciate it. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sharp.
Wow, it was a busy month last month and this month. Went to the planning and zoning meeting last month, and I too would just love to give so much praise to the planning and zoning team. Even questions that I thought I was going to have that I had written down on my little piece of paper, they had answers for before I even got a chance to ask them, and that makes me feel really good. Our staff is great at what they do, period. Councilwoman Radusky was talking about the Florida League of Cities. It was so well done. Of course, I didn't like to walk, but I enjoyed the conference overall. It was absolutely fantastic. The classes were great. The presenters were absolutely fantastic. This was my first time going as an elected official, so I learned so much until, I'm really grateful to the village for being generous enough to send us, period, and the residents letting us learn so we can do such a good job from this dais. It was good. It was just really good. I even went to the Doge presentation. Yes, I did. Anyway, so I joined yeah, we won't talk about that. But I think ribbon cutting was wonderful. I'm sure the mayor will mention that. That was great and well done. And I just wanted to say that I'm very happy about, I think, because I'm now a member of that credit union. Thank you. And then I'm also a member of the Young at Heart. Lenny and I joined Young at Heart. I'm more excited about that than I am about anything else. I'm looking forward to that. I'm telling you, it's just good to be over 50. I'm telling you, with so much to do, and they do so much in there. Such a great group, and they are organized really well also. The community connections that you mentioned, Councilwoman Radesky, I have been taking those to the senior citizens that I know of in my neighborhood, you know, because they don't get a chance to get them. So I've been taking it to them, as well as other representatives in other municipalities. As a matter of fact, the mayor in Riviera Beach wants to come over and actually tour our facility. He was very, very impressed with the parks and, you know, the way that book is laid out, and he was excited about that. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if any of you know or remember Dan Liffman, who was Alcee Hastings' administrative assistant for years, and his he was his aide for years. Had surgery. Lenny and I went to see him. He's doing really good. He came through the surgery well, so he would love to have some visitors. He is at Palm Garden on Executive Center Drive in West Palm Beach. So if you guys have time, please go see him. And last but not least, I'm really excited about, you know, I ran on getting the youth involved, and I'm really happy with that report that came out as far as doing things. I'm sure the city manager, village manager will go over that. But I just wanted to mention that my mentee, who goes to Royal Palm Beach High School, who is a senior this year, is also a drum major this year, and only has to take one class, and it just happens to be PE, and the rest are electives. So when she graduates from high school next year, she'll be graduating with her high school diploma and her 2-year degree. I'm telling you, I'm just so excited about that, and just grateful to the residents for allowing me to be on this dais and do the best job that I possibly can. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Then, talking about our schools, I don't think we can say this too often, and that is that we are really proud of our 6 schools here in Royal Palm Beach. 3 of them stepped up a letter, so over half, our half of our schools actually stepped up over a letter this past year. We now have 4 A schools, 2 B schools. One of the B schools was a B school by only 1 point. My guess is next year it's going to be an A. The other school, the first comment I got from the principal when she proudly announced that they had received a B was, and we see the A. So the schools are really, they are excited about, and they are the ones that make that happen with the kids, with the students, with the parents, and the teachers in the classroom. So talking about that, I do want to talk a little bit about the results of our survey that we did on the support of the schools and how we could enhance the village support of the schools. I'll just make one comment about Florida League of Cities. It was fantastic. You all talked about the keynote speaker, and both speakers were just outstanding. They really were. Just great insight, and the timing was perfect for some of that. It was absolutely perfect, talking about maintain your curiosity, maintain your empathy, and I've forgotten, and candor. Those 3 elements are what they talked about a lot, and it's a powerful message. It really is a combination of both speakers. The other thing was, speaking of powerful messages of one sort or another, the Doge briefing was very interesting, and that word is a very appropriate word. We will see the results. I understand there was an article in the paper today which connected Doge with property taxes, which is a very interesting lay of the land, if you will. And so we were encouraged through a very strong set of meetings to make sure we're ready to engage fully this year with the state legislature, especially on property taxes. Because while some say it was just a political ploy, it's just a game, unfortunately, as I point out to folks, we've seen a lot of things that we've said over the last several years just not likely to happen. That won't happen. That's just beyond the realm of possibility. So I know we'll all take that property tax issue very seriously, and we'll welcome those if we should be exposed to that opportunity as others do wisely. Now, to the results of our school support survey. I was pleased that we got pretty good response to the survey, and as was mentioned, provided a summary of some of the highlights coming out of the 7 questions that we posed to the principals of our Royal Palm Beach schools and also to our Education Advisory Board members. So there are right now a couple of initiatives that are, if you will, in the early stages of actually being developed. And as I look at some of these ideas that were recommended as possible actions to increase our support and impact of our schools, impact on our schools, I think that the approach that we should consider taking is treating each one of the initiatives that we follow up on as pilots. Taking a look at, trying it for a year, see what it looks like, see what the results are, see what the impact is, and then decide if we wish to continue any of them, add to it, or not follow through in the following year. So there were 4 initiatives that actually relate to the recommendations of both the Education Advisory Board members and also the teachers, the principals. The first one is one that actually supports the idea of trying to assist the schools, and I know this is a stretch and it's not an easy thing, to achieve A rating and then sustain the A rating. And one of the recommendations was for the village to assist the schools in recruiting retired teachers to actually act as tutors and mentors. And so that's an initiative that I'd be willing to take the lead on. And my first step in that would be use tomorrow's Young at Heart meeting to stand in front of 275 seniors, or however many we have there, and say, if any of you all are interested and are former teachers, retired teachers, let me know who you are, and I will put you in touch with the principals that have indicated an interest in bringing you up to speed, doing some training, and having you engage as tutors and mentors. So that's one initiative that I'd like to get the support of the council to continue with. Like I said, as kind of a pilot effort. Anybody have any comments on that? Or if not, I'll move on to the others. The next one has to do with enhancing the civics education. We talked about that during our workshop and at other times. And that's one that I'm going to leave to the village manager to talk a bit about, and that's one that Councilwoman Sharps just mentioned in passing, and it's the Youth Civic Leadership Program, which has gotten a lot of interest in just mentioning it casually in different meetings. So I'll wait for the manager's presentation and report to kind of flesh that one out. Another is teacher recognition. And actually, this came from the Education Advisory Board as well as the principals, indicating that they would see any kind of public recognition of teachers as being something that would be greatly appreciated and have a very positive impact on the individuals who are recognized, as well as the rest of the staff and faculty. So what I would propose to take on as a pilot effort would be with the Education Advisory Board doing the presentation of Teacher of the Year recognition for each school as proposed by that school's principal, and that award be made at the end of the school year, which would be the last meeting, which would be in May. Again, a pilot, an idea, but an opportunity to recognize the people who really make the difference. The classroom is a place where, as they say, it happens kind of a thing. So that's the third initiative. And the fourth one also has to do with recognizing teachers. But this would be all of the teachers in Royal Palm Beach. This is a bit of a stretch. But the idea would be to reach out to the businesses in Royal Palm Beach and see if they would be interested in participating in something that you could call a teacher appreciation program or network, which would provide discounts or products or services to Royal Palm Beach teachers who could identify themselves as such, while we recognize the businesses that are actually participating in that effort with some kind of a logo or something of that nature. So that would be a bit of a challenge. We do have a small business roundtable coming up, which might be a forum in which we could put this on the table to see if there's any interest among the businesses. So those are the 4 initiatives. Wondering how the council feels about those going forward with them as pilots. Any comments, recommendations, support?
I would support all 4 of those pilots, Mr. Mayor.
I think I'd be on board for the first 3 of the 4. I see practical implications. There could be a problem with the 4th, but I'm not completely against it, but those are the 3 that jumped out or stood out to me.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
I'm not opposed to any of them, actually. But I am curious about execution. I think they sound like great ideas, but how they actually get executed. I think there's levels of details and involvement that we'll probably need to talk about.
Yep.
Number 3, I'm wondering if we're gonna recognize teachers, is there a way to do it more often and with more teachers? Because it sounds like we're gonna wait till the end of the year, just give 1 award. So is it possible that how often does the Education Advisory Board meet?
A month, every month.
Every month, right? Is it
We missed
possible-
January, but every month otherwise.
Okay. Is it possible to recognize a teacher of the month instead of just 1?
And I would say that is a good topic for discussion with people that actually have to offer that up, like
Right.
principals. And if we were talking about all 6 schools, they don't attend every meeting mostly. They do, but not every meeting. The other is the Education Advisory Board, as I was reminded in one of the sets of comments, is a volunteer board.
Right.
And well, what I mean by that is, volunteers will pitch in up to a certain degree. The concern that was being expressed was too much on the volunteers either won't get executed very well
Sure.
or may push people away, kind of a thing.
Maybe what could be done is, depending on what the school is for that month, maybe it's not an award, it's just recognition, and the principal comes with however many teachers they want to recognize, and the Recreation Advisory Board doesn't have to, that's my baby.
No,
I know I do it all the time.
I know what
The
you meant.
Education Advisory Board doesn't have to do anything except listen to the presentation and acknowledge these teachers for what the principal is giving them the recognition for.
Okay. Let me take that up with the Education Advisory Board and see what they think about it. But those are all good. And the more recognition, the better. I mean,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. So those are good suggestions. I appreciate that. Any other?
I am who I am. Mayor, I think it's a great idea for you to stand up in front of those young at heart people and ask them to volunteer. Some of them have voice that they want something to do. And we do have some minds that are still sharp that can be shared in that manner. And the civics education thing, I ran on that. So I really support that 180%. I still have the concern about the recognition of teachers, period, if we're not going to also make sure that, as I stated before, we tell the public about the things that are already in place through the district where they recognize the teachers on a monthly basis as well. And, doing some research in that manner, along with whatever it is you all decide to do as far as recognition is concerned. The last one, that is a sticky one for me, asking all the Royal Palm Beach businesses to, possibly get involved in recognizing teachers. And my question would be, because I do have a small businesses, and who else am I going to recognize? I'm going to recognize the engineers and all them other people I'd like to see my child become, other than a teacher. And devil's advocate here, but that's where I'm at. That's what I think.
Okay, all right. Again, these are pilot initiatives and ideas, and fleshing them out enough, the details, right? I almost said the devil's in the details, which is also true.
It is true.
To the point where we can actually do a pilot to see whether or not it gains traction. I mean, when, and I need to move along to the village manager so we can talk about the youth civics leadership program. But the first question of it is, do we have any students who are interested in participating in it? And that question, hopefully we'll get an answer to, I know we will, on the 3rd of September. But before that, it would be good to know that as well. So there are a lot of uncertainties about all of these things. They're initiatives that I think are heart's in the right place. It's a matter of figuring out whether or not we could do this and considering any kind of downside like Councilwoman Sharp just brought up, kind of a thing. So I appreciate that. With that said, that's the end of my rather lengthy report, and I'll turn it over to the village manager.
So I do want to talk about this during a little bit. I'm constantly changing this draft, but I'm trying not to send you every draft. You will get a final draft sometime before September 3rd. But let me. Hopefully, I can finalize this actually after this meeting. As you all know, we've created this to create a hands-on educational experience that runs from September to April, giving students the opportunity to see local government up close, meet our local government leaders, and create an introduction to our civic leaders and civic leadership. We want to be able to do this to as many students that are willing to volunteer. I think we can handle quite a few in the way we have this laid out. We are going to rely on the principal to talk to the seniors, talk to the juniors, and get as many enrolled as we can. We did set it up with them where they have to apply. They have the application, and a teacher has to sign off on it, and the principal will sign off on it. The first major part of it will be the September 3rd meeting. There's a lot going on in the September 3rd meeting, but that's the meeting where we're going to be introducing ourselves to them with not a whole lot of detail. So what I have currently laid out would be the mayor would open up the meeting. He would introduce the council, turn it over to me. I would introduce the program. Then I would introduce the village, just some basic facts about the village and who we are and the services we provide. And then we would go to each of the boards that the students would be attending, 2 of each. I'd start with the Planning and Zoning Board. So I would start with Councilwoman Sharp describing the Planning and Zoning Board responsibilities. I'll draft all this up and I'll get it right from the ordinance, and I will get it to everybody soon, early, probably by middle next week. Next, we would do Councilman Radusky describing the Recreation Advisory Board responsibilities. And then we would go to the mayor introducing the EAB chairperson, if that person can make it. We did check with the other chairpersons of the boards, and they aren't able to make September 3rd. We still haven't verified with the EAB chairperson. And he would either be the mayor or the chairperson describing the responsibilities of the EAB. Depending on how much time is left from there, I would introduce each of the department heads, Captain Niox and the district chief, and then we'd have closing questions and comments. If we have time, I'll have each of the department heads in 60 seconds introduce themselves and give give the students kind of a brief path that they have to their careers. And that will be our introduction to them. I'll want to leave that meeting with the students seeing our faces, knowing just a little bit about us, and feeling comfortable contacting us going forward. I've set this up so that before each council meeting, if any of the students that are attending that next council meeting want to do an online meeting with me, similar or basically exactly like I do, sit down with each of you and go over the agenda, and that would be a lot more free flow, and they can ask questions, and then maybe they'll have a little bit more interest in the meeting, and it'll make more sense to them. And then at the end of the program in April, the April 2nd meeting, will be a certificate and kind of a meeting with the students, congratulating them and asking them a few questions of what they thought of the program and how we can improve it and add to it, take away from it, and that's it. And I think it's a program I think we can handle quite a few kids. I mean, we're online. We're not limited with the number of kids that can be online. So I hope the media center is full. The principal did tell me, I think she'd say 250 people she can handle in the media center. So be prepared for a big crowd. So, and that's it. And I will fine tune this. If anybody has any suggestions on things on here, I am going to kind of leave it up to each of you, or the mayor, and then each of you as far as your introductions. Like I said, we only have an hour, so I can make the ones at the end very short or longer if I need to make up to fill the last bit of time.
So that's the essence of it. Don't want to drag out the reports any further than necessary. We are going to get copies of, as Ray said, the latest draft, and that would probably be a great way to offer comments and that type of thing, unless somebody has a really burning issue. Okay.
Are we getting parents' signatures on this too?
I'm leaving that up to the principal on how to deal with that. No, I don't have it on the application. That we had that conversation with the principal,
Right,
and she is handling everybody signing up and that end of it.
I know with the other things that she's done, especially with my mentee being involved in others, that she does have the parent involved. Because my professor, who is my mentee's daughter, is signed for his daughter to be a part.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Unless any other burning issues with regard to that, if not, then I would move on to petitions. Are there any petitions to?
No, Mayor.
I assume we don't have any online. So I don't see any in the audience. If there's no petitions to be presented, then I will close the floor to petitions. Statements from the public on non-agenda items or consent agenda items. Now, I do have a card, but it is regarding one of our regular agenda items. So I will definitely recognize the resident at that point in time, and we can have that comment. Are there any other
No, Mayor.
cards or indications of wishing to speak on a non-agenda or consent agenda? Any hands raised?
I have a name I recognize, but I don't see her hand up.
Okay. I feel significance there, but I'm not sure what to do with it. Okay, with that said, are there any statements from the audience here on non-agenda items or on consent agenda items? Not seeing any, I will close the floor to public statements and then move on to the consent agenda, and I will ask the clerk to read a very long
Yes, Mayor, I will.
list
Thank
of
you.
consent agenda
Number one,
items.
approval of the minutes of the council budget workshop meeting of July 10th, 2025, and council regular meeting of July 17th, 2025. Two, approval of a special event permit for Mission Barbecue Company to hold a 9/11 ceremony honoring our first responders, law enforcement, and firefighters at a Mission Barbecue restaurant located at 11929 Southern Boulevard. The event will take place during business hours on September 11th, 2025. 3, adoption resolution number 2523, resolution of the Village Council, the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing in accordance with established policy the making of a budget amendment for Fund 401 in the fiscal
Can
year
you talk
20.
more directly into the mic so they can hear
Okay,
you?
sorry. in the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Is that better? Yeah, okay. Said amendment to transfer a total of $35,000 from Fund 304, undesignated fund balance, to WTP Site Modification, PW 1902. 4, adoption of resolution number 2524, resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, approving and authorizing in accordance with established policy the making of a budget amendment for Fund 408 in the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. Said amendment to transfer a total of $60,000 from Fund 408, undesignated fund balance, to Canal Bank Stabilization, PW 1806. 5, approval and authorization for the village manager to execute the first addendum to agreement for professional municipal engineering services to extend the term with Erdman Anthony for the first 2-year renewal period. 6, approval and authorization for the village manager to enter into a professional services agreement for landscape architect services with Kotler and Herring for various projects in the village of Royal Palm Beach. 7, approval and authorization for the village manager to execute consultant services authorization number 48 with Terracon to provide quality control services and asphalt lot verification for the road resurfacing project. The cost for said services shall not exceed $102,713. 8, authorization for the village manager to execute the second addendum to agreement for air conditioning monthly maintenance services with Horizon Air Conditioning Incorporated to extend the agreement for the second 1-year renewal period and reflect a 2.83% CPI increase. The adjusted annual amount of the agreement for fiscal year 26 is $89,807.36. Funding for the AC monthly maintenance is budgeted in the fiscal year 26 Public Works operating budget. 9, authorization for the village manager to execute the first addendum for grounds maintenance service on Crestwood Boulevard and the Village Hall Complex agreement with Epicurean Park LLC, doing business as Next Era Services, to extend the agreement for the first 1-year renewal period and reflect a 2.83% price increase. The adjusted annual amount of the agreement for fiscal year 26 is $107,971.50. Funding for grounds maintenance is budgeted in the fiscal year 26 Public Works operating budget. 10, authorization for the village manager to execute the third addendum to agreement for roadway grounds maintenance service with Epicurean Park LLC, doing business as Next Era Services, to extend the agreement for the third 1-year renewal period from October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026, and reflect a 2.83% price increase. The adjusted annual amount of the agreement for fiscal year 26 is $433,659.22. Funding for roadway grounds maintenance is budgeted in the fiscal year 26 Public Works operating budget.
Thank you for the reading of that. Does any member of the council wish to pull any of the consent agenda items? Not seeing any, then I will look for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any opposed. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Then moving on to the regular agenda. The first item on the agenda is Crestwood and Royal Palm Beach Boulevard Speed Study, Findings and Village Council Direction on Mitigation Strategies. And I will turn to our village engineer and welcome Chris this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So as part of the strategic planning session earlier this year, the Crestwood Boulevard from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to Okeechobee Boulevard, there were complaints concerning speeding on that corridor, and one of the initiatives was to do a speed study on that corridor. Looking at the function of that roadway, I decided to expand that study to Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and the other half of Crestwood Boulevard because it had similar characteristics as it related to access and both with pedestrian walkways and the driveway access. So we entered into an agreement with Erdman Anthony to perform that, and behind me I have Nassar Khan and Chris Bauzo and they're going to give you a brief presentation on their findings from that study. So,
All right, great. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Click them out.
Good evening.
Thank you for our time here. Thank you for your time. My name is Chris Bauzo. I'm a civil engineer with Urban Anthony.
Chris, would you get that mic closer
The
so
mic,
that everybody can hear you clearly?
Yes, no problem. Let me sit down, actually, that may help. We've prepared a comprehensive study of Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Crestwood Boulevard. Today, we shall discuss the issue of speeding within the village and possible solutions to the problem. First, we'll define the issue. The Village of Royal Palm Beach tasked us with studying the issue of speeding within Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Crestwood Boulevard. I'm sure you've all experienced this in your day-to-day. You're driving down Royal Palm Beach Boulevard on the way to Publix, somewhere else. Knucklehead zooms past you going 45, 50 miles per hour. And that's pretty common from the data that we got here. Based on the speed volume data we were given, we found the average driver is going roughly 5 to 10 miles per hour faster than the speed limit across all 6 of these corridor segments you see here that we were provided access to for the data. And not even to touch on the 85th, 95th percentile speeds, which we'll get to shortly. High variance between the speed limit and the observed driver speeds is known to decrease overall roadway safety. Or more simply put, when you're going 35, someone else is going 25, and a third person is going 50, all on the same road, that's when your accidents are more likely to occur. So what can we do about this? Well, to answer that question, first we have to have a more in-depth understanding of the traffic conditions of our study area, as well as some terminology. So now let's review a few quick definitions and the key takeaways from our speed and volume data analysis. Average daily traffic, or ADT, is the average number of vehicles traveling the corridor on a typical weekday. We use weekdays because that's when the most drivers are on the road under normal conditions, like work, school, commutes. And next, we have 10 mile per hour pace speed, which is the 10 mile per hour range of speeds that most of your vehicles are traveling. So you can see in our data below, we have a 10 mile per hour pace speed that ranges between 36 and 45 miles per hour, or 41 to 50 miles per hour, depending on which corridor segment it was. So what can we do about this to make these ranges closer to our speed limit? To answer that, first we have to have more in-depth understanding of the traffic conditions of our study area. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong slide. Okay, next we have 85th percentile speed. This is a very important metric in traffic engineering because it is the speed at which 85% of vehicles, of drivers on the road, will not exceed. This is because 85% of people are what we like to consider reasonable and will not drive at speeds they deem overly excessive or unsafe. Now for the key takeaways here. What we found is on a typical weekday, Royal Palm Beach Boulevard services between 15.3 to 16.5 thousand vehicles over 24 hours. Crestwood North between 12 to 13.6 thousand, and Crestwood South between 20.9 to 22.3 thousand. At the same time, 10 mile per hour pace speeds exceed posted speed limits for all corridor segments. And most telling of all, drivers on Royal Palm Beach and Crestwood North are going nearly as fast as those on Crestwood South, despite the 5 mile per hour difference in speed limit. This tells us that while variance in speed limit's a problem on all 3 corridors, it's magnified on Royal Palm Beach and Crestwood North due in part to the lower speed limit. The next thing we looked at was the crash data for these corridors. We received data ranging between May 15, 2018 and December 31st, 2024 for analysis in this study. As you can see on the big table to the left, we were able to split up crashes based on which corridor it occurred on and the estimated speed of the inciting vehicle. What we discovered is the rate of crashes that were a direct result of speeding for each corridor. Royal Palm Beach Boulevard with a speed and crash rate of over 12%, so 12% of crashes that occurred on Royal Palm Beach were because of vehicles going over the speed limit. Crestwood North, we have around 7%, and Crestwood South, only 2.5%. These percentages were compared to the official stats from the Florida Highway Safety Motor Vehicles, or FLH-SMV. Across the entire state of Florida, for the 3 years of data publicly available, the rate of crashes due to speeding sits at 4.1%. So that's our statewide average. That's our benchmark that we're trying to, that's our metric of success there. And then we look again at our 3 corridors. We have 12.2%, 7.3%. Those are way higher than 4.1. The only one that meets our benchmark is Crestwood South at 2.5%. Crestwood South, the one with the highest speed limit and the highest daily volume of vehicles, has the lowest crash rate due to speeding, lowest percentage of crashes due to speeding. They may be thinking, sure, the rate's 2.5, but there's more crashes here than anywhere else. But that's when we consider this next. We did a separate analysis of the same data using vehicle miles traveled, which is VMT, is a total distance of vehicle traffic traveled in 1 year. Basically, it's average daily traffic times roadway length times 365 days, which gives us a denominator, a common place of comparison for all 3 of the corridors, which have different lengths, different speed limits, different volumes. And it gives us a more standardized crash rate based on each corridor's individual characteristics. So what this new number tells us is essentially, for every 1 million miles driven on the road, how many crashes are statistically likely to occur. And based on our findings, Crestwood North and Crestwood South are essentially on par with one another when it comes to speeding crashes, while Royal Palm Beach Boulevard has a speeding crash rate that's nearly 7 times higher than the others. So to summarize, traffic safety is at its peak when the most vehicles are traveling within the 10-mile-per-hour pace speed. When everyone's driving at similar speeds, variance is minimized, roadway predictability is maximized, and thus the roads are safer. So when some people are going at the limit, the average driver is going 5 to 10 miles per hour faster than the limit, and a few outliers are going even faster than that, your level of speed variance is making the roadway less safe. Just look at Crestwood South. It has the highest volume of vehicles, the highest speed limit, but the lowest speeding crash rate, 2.5%. And that's due to having the least variance between the posted speed limit and the actual driver behavior. Now we have a graph here on the bottom right. It has a lot of lines. It may look pretty daunting, but it's pretty simple actually. So we have this yellow line that is crash risk, and we're looking at this line, this vertical line, which is 85th percentile speed. So at 85th percentile speed, your risk of crash is minimized. It bottoms out at 85 and then spikes at around 90 or so, which those are your 15% of drivers which are going the fastest, which are obviously the least safe drivers. 85% of drivers are risk averse. They're reasonable. They will drive at speeds they deem safe and appropriate. When someone driving at a reasonable speed, however, encounters someone driving at an unreasonable speed, like an aspiring drag racer going 72 in a school zone, or grandma going 15 on the turnpike, that's when safety is at most risk. So with all that in mind, here are our recommendations to make your roadways safer. For Royal Palm Beach and Crestwood North, we suggest the speed limit be adjusted to better reflect the observed conditions from our study. A modest bump up to 40 miles per hour will not be too drastic of a change, as most drivers are already going faster than this anyway. As we mentioned earlier, the 85th percentile speed is independent of the actual speed limit. This change, therefore, is to help law-abiding citizens who are going the speed limit to basically keep up with the observed flow of traffic that most people are actually going, thus decreasing variance without increasing overall speeds. And as for those who choose to be unreasonable, we suggest the village implements radar feedback signs on strategic areas where we observe the most of these 95th percentile 15% offenders, we'll call them. These signs can also be, they display the speed in real time. I'm sure you've seen them when you drive down the road. They can be data enabled as well. So basically when a car drives past, you get the actual speed. That can be plugged in via internet, displayed, and that allows for easier data collection for engineers like myself and my colleague Nassar to actually do these studies at in a more reliable rate and have actual data from the actual field that we can use to observe the conditions of the site. The main critique of these signs, though, is that they're only really effective at lowering speeds in the immediate area they're installed. But when used in tandem with a parked police vehicle, they become more effective. So you have the sign, you have a cop right next to it. That's when, okay, there's a sign, there's a cop. I better slow down. When you combine them, that's when magic happens. These measures are suggested to be implemented in strategic areas like curved roadways where the risk of speed-related crashes is at their highest. So you're going fast, there's a turn. You don't want that. You don't want that mixture. And that concludes our presentation. Thanks again for having us. If there are any questions about this study or our findings, please let us know.
Okay, thank you. Chris, did you have anything else that you wanted to add at this point? I'm going to open it up to public comment in a second, and then we can get into the council.
Did we want to go ahead and do public comment, and then I'll present my recommendations to the council? Does that make sense?
I think that would be good. So I have a card for public comment from Fred Lowry. Mr. Lowry, would you like to step up to the mic? Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate that.
Good evening, council members. My name is Fred Laurie. I have lived in Royal Palm Beach for 20 years. This is my first time actually addressing the council, and I want to thank you for your attention and your public service. One of my other duties is that I'm president of the Palm Estates Homeowners Association, which is a village in Madison Green. And one of the I guess, complaints that I receive from my residents in the village and also friends outside of the village is the speeding and motor vehicle operation within the village that is basically a public safety threat. That complaint is not new or unique. I'm looking at a Palm Beach Post article here where District 9 said that adding that traffic complaints are one of the top complaints that are brought to that office. Speeding appears to be a common complaint, with several council members commenting on the incidents they've seen and heard. And thank you, Councilwoman Sharp, for bringing to the attention of the representative that was here about homeowners insurance. How about car insurance? Have you seen your bill lately for car insurance? Over 3,000 people in the state of Florida last year were killed in accidents. 1,000 accidents a day. So, and it's not just on Crestwood Road. It's not on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard. It's throughout the village of Royal Palm Beach, whether it's Southern Boulevard, 7, 441, Okeechobee. So we're not making this up. It's now hard data that 85% of the people that are traveling are traveling 43 to 50 miles per hour on Crestwood. So if you thought that was a lot, I only broke down one traffic survey that actually encompassed Royal Palm Beach, or I should say Crestwood. And there were 3 instances where people were traveling 66 to 70 miles an hour, not at 1 or 2 in the morning. This is during the daytime. So let me get to the recommendation that was made by the company that did the traffic survey. and their recommendation was more strict enforcement of speeding. Using the graphs discussed in the previous section, law enforcement can be strategically deployed at each of the study areas at times when speeders are most likely to appear. It is recommended to prioritize corridor section 5 and 6 during PM hours. So this is not new to me. I've spent 35 years in law enforcement. I have a son who's in law enforcement, and I was from a road cop to a division commander. Please, we need to prioritize traffic enforcement throughout the village of Royal Palm Beach, not as a put up the signs one week, do some radar enforcement the next week. This has to be a constant traffic enforcement situation. And with that, I'm over my time, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And most of all, thank you for your interest. It is
Thank you.
appreciated. Now, are there any other, there are no other cards?
No, Mayor.
Are there any hands raised?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then I will close the floor to public comment, and we'll turn back to our staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So during the study, I think everybody heard about the posted speed limit versus the 10-mile pace, which is very important because that 10-mile pace is what everybody's driving, and then you have that 85 percentile speed, which is, and that's the at or below speed. That's not everybody's going 50 miles per hour. That's, when you look at 85% of the data, 85% of the vehicles are at that speed and below. And then, so the goal that Urban Anthony is trying to bring home is that we need the posted speed limit to be closer to the middle of that 10-mile pace. The closer we get that, the safer it's going to be for everybody, because then everybody is driving in that threshold, and the person that's obeying the speed limit is not being punished by these vehicles whipping by them that are going the speed that they feel the roadway it should be, and are driving that way, and with instinct in a lot of cases. I don't think they mean to go that 7 or 8 miles per hour over, but that's the way they feel when they're driving down that corridor. So when I looked at the data, I think the appropriate move would be to install some of these radar speed signs. Well, the first thing we would have to do is we have a traffic calming policy that doesn't currently allow the radar speed signs on collector roadways. So we would have to amend that policy to basically exempt the radar speed signs from one of those traffic calming measures that would be exempt on collector roadways, and then do a pilot study and put some of these signs on Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and a couple of the signs on the north section of Crestwood, a couple signs on South Crestwood. We would get signs that gave us real-time data, so we could see when we come to work the next morning that at 7:15 a.m. this vehicle was going 65 miles per hour down Crestwood Boulevard, and guess what? They did it every day this week. And then there could be targeted enforcement for those outliers that are well above that 85 percentile speed and really are making it dangerous for other users of that roadway. And then we evaluate the results, and that would be my recommendation moving forward.
All right. With that said, I'm going to turn to the council and see if anyone has comments or questions for our staff, for the contractor. Anybody care to offer anything? Vice Mayor?
You recommended the signs and traffic signs, which you put the signs where they need to be, and the targeted outliners. What about the police officer?
Well, law enforcement would have to be actively involved with it for it to work to catch basically these outliers. I mean, that's the idea behind it is the people that are the repetitive speeders along that corridor get them. And then once they get ticketed, I think it's going to start to change their behavior, especially if it's multiple times. And then that's going to make it safer for the traffic that wants to be closer to that posted speed limit. And as it relates to enforcement, I did have a conversation with Captain Knox, and there is a lot of enforcement on this corridor. And if you look at the stats from the previous year compared to this year, it's up significantly. He actually shared those numbers with me, and if you'd like him to speak to that, he's obviously right there and has that information.
Okay, that might be a good thing.
Yes.
Let's hear from Captain Ajax.
Mayor, Council, good evening, Mr. Laurie. Good evening, how are you, sir, ma'am? Mr. Laurie, way before we had the conversation we had maybe 2 or 3 months ago in my office, I took very much to heart the speeding problem because I've lived in the village since 2001, and my family's grown up here, so I myself have seen it. But just to address the concerns you had, in 2024, specifically on Crestwood Boulevard North, between Royal Palm Beach Boulevard and Okeechobee Boulevard, we did 548 traffic stops. This year alone, in August, we're up to 945 traffic stops in that same stretch of road. So we do take your concerns very seriously. We have had people out there. We have increased our traffic stops throughout the village. It's a priority for me. However, one thing I need the council to know and understand is while I'd like to put people on Crestwood Boulevard and keep them all day, I just can't do it, okay? I get complaints about H.L. Johnson traffic, people cutting each other off. I have to pull people there to do it. People wake up in the morning, they drive to work, they get into accidents, they have to respond to those. At the same time I'm dealing with those issues, I have complaints from people actively driving down Okeechobee Boulevard eastbound, trying to get past Royal Palm Beach High School, complaining about vehicles making a left-hand turn, blocking eastbound traffic. So while it is a major concern for us, we addressed it as best and as reasonably as we possibly can. And the numbers speak for themselves. As I said, in 2024, on that stretch of road alone, we did 548 traffic stops, 2025, 945. And as a matter of fact, these stats don't just reflect District 9 personnel, they reflect any person that does a traffic stop in the village of Royal Palm Beach. And as a matter of fact, the county has a motor unit, a traffic unit, and they are aware of the problems that are in the village as they refer to traffic problems and issues, and in other villages and municipalities as well. So I don't know if you saw it, but today they were doing another traffic stop in the village that I didn't even request. They routinely go around. So it's an all hands on deck effort to try and do the best we can to resolve the issues with the manpower we have.
Any questions for Captain?
Thank you, Captain. What can we do as the village? What can we do to help you?
I believe that some of the things that the village engineer said and the traffic study engineer said would help. I think maybe bringing the road a little more into the percentile might be, adequate. And another thing that's noteworthy too, people are under the false conception that I can write a traffic citation to someone automatically speeding 3 or 4 or 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. The fact is I can't. Florida State statute, I believe it's 318.03, indicates that I can't actually write a citation to anyone going 6 miles or less than over the speed limit unless they're in an occupied and active school zone or construction zone. So actually, anything under 6 miles an hour is a warning. 6 miles an hour and above when it actually becomes a traffic citation.
Okay. Other comments?
Oh, well, not for the captain, no.
Okay. So I do have a question. So if I understood the proposal that our village engineer made, we're talking about purchasing some of these radar displays, these speed display signs, placing them at strategic locations where you would expect the speeding that is of greatest concern to us, I would imagine, be the location. Do it on kind of a pilot program basis with the intent of that connecting, that is, the real-time data being available for District 9 to, as you said a moment ago, target the repeat offenders, which, interestingly enough, I have such a little exposure to that, but when I first got in office, someone wanted me to experience what was going on Ponce de Leon around the stop signs. and I'm sure that's familiar. People run those stop signs a lot. And what struck me, and I spent a couple of days out there with him, and what struck me about it was he knew the time of day, he could even name the vehicle, and identified the driver of several of these. My point is, there is the repeated behavior among certain individuals, and my notion is that therefore there is great value to being able to identify those people because they do create the greatest risk. They are the most reckless and inconsiderate and unsafe individuals. So if we could do something about them, I think that would be a worthwhile effort. Do you agree that using something like those signs to do that kind of targeting and resource allocation?
I believe it would. I would have to share with Chris or get with Chris at a later time to find out how we share that information. But yes, I believe it could be very helpful.
Okay. Yes, Village Manager.
Traffic engineering is as much the science as it is the psychology. And I know it's counterintuitive. Raising speed limits makes the road safer. But you heard them. Nassar did his dissertation on speed, setting proper speed limits on the roads. This story has been around for decades. It is true. It is absolutely true. The stop sign situation that we got a lot of complaints on, and you witnessed it. The reason we got a lot of complaints on there and a lot of violations there was because it was not a stop sign placed in accordance with the UMTCD manual. And when you do that, you lose respect for the devices, and people disregard them. In that particular case, the council, and this is some 30 years ago, the council used stop signs to slow people down on the roads where we were having complaints about speeding. And they put these four-way stop signs in. Well, the person on the side street, there's very few people to come from the side street. So the people on the main street realize that there's no threat to them physically being harmed if they ignore it, because the chances of another car being there is next to nothing. You're only supposed to use the four-way stops when you have about the same amount of traffic coming in both directions, and you're near needing a warrant for a stop sign. Needing a warrant for a signal. So that's why the stop signs are worse than putting artificially low speed limits. But the bottom line is, the lower you put a speed limit compared to somewhere between that 50 and 85 percentile, the more range you get. And the more range you get, I was shocked in the statistics that 7.5%, the 12.5% versus the 4 versus the 2.5% on South Crestwood. But it is real.
Okay, thank you. And any other comments? The one thing I will say is that you use the word counterintuitive. I'll go to another extreme. Spending a lot of time talking to a lot of people over the last 12 years about concerns on Crestwood Boulevard. The word outrageous pops into my head. It's not just counterintuitive. The idea of we're trying to address a speed, I'm just being very candid here. Trying to address a speeding problem by raising the speed limit is beyond counterintuitive insofar as anybody I've talked to had a concern about that. However, it doesn't mean that there isn't something that could be done. And if it were the will of the council to go in that direction, fine. But one thing that could be done are these display signs, strategically located, linked up, and used to target the truly excessive speeds. And I think that would enhance the safety on these roads that we're talking about right now. At least that's my impression. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. I have just a few questions, I guess, for everyone. I have no problem with raising the speed limit on those two areas. It makes sense that if everyone's going around the same speed, we'll have less accidents. For these radar feedback signs, Mr. Laurie mentioned it was throughout Royal Palm Beach was our speeding issues. So the captain, I know the speed study was only focused in these three corridors. Should we look at other areas within the village that these speed radar feedback signs could help? That's one question, and then I have another one. But go ahead.
I think that's certainly something we could explore once we get the data back from this pilot study. The signs, although they're not tremendously expensive, they do cost between $5,000 and $6,000 per sign. You have to pay for the cellular data if you want real-time data. So they are expensive. They do require a battery replacement because they're solar powered, and obviously they unfortunately do get hit by vehicles. So I think if we start with, and I'm talking about six of these signs initially we would roll out. We already have a capital project that we could fund these from, and we get that data. We obviously need to make sure that the sheriff's department's going to embrace that, and they see benefits from it. And once we get a year's worth of stats, I think we would absolutely move to other areas if we saw it as a benefit and cost effective. But throwing up hundreds of these all over the village, and I don't think they're beautiful either. I think that they could be offensive, especially if we go into residential neighborhoods and put them up in front of somebody's home. These lights will be flashing all through the night. So.
So possibly after the study, and I would love to hear from the captain, not right now, but in the future, like where those areas where you give the most tickets, right? It might not just be these 3 corridors. It might be other places in the village.
And I don't disagree. There are other candidates on minor collector roadways that are out there. And
We've all seen them, yeah.
Yes.
So one other thing, I know this is not part of the scope of the study. However, on Crestwood South, there are 2 crosswalks that are used by students. I think one is Parker, and then another one I think is Crestwood Square, right?
Sparrow and Park Road South. Sparrow and Park Road South. We have
And then
crosswalks at Crestwood.
And then there's also a school at Crestwood Square as well. I've seen kids there next to Crestwood Square, and I've seen them at Parker. I would like to ask that we kind of look at the students crossing. This is a 2-lane road each way with a median. I don't know if a school zone is appropriate or something. If we can look at the safety of our students crossing the road in the morning and in the afternoon after school lets out, I would love us to look at that as well.
Crestwood Square, where there's a signal. Are you talking about the Publix?
Publix, that's the one
Yes,
you're talking about,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Have a full signal.
It has a signal, correct.
That is the safe control we have there for the students.
Okay.
None of those locations qualify as a school zone because they're not close enough to a school.
Can we look at I would love us to look and see what the other opportunities there are to make our students safer on those crosswalks.
Other than the public shopping center one, our former Albertsons, we did do a study in 2021 and look at those issues. And there actually were some improvements that were made. There were U-turns at the Park Road and Sparrow intersection, and they were eliminated to create a better refuge area for that crossing. And then we did put the flashing beacon signs to help draw attention to the crossing guards crossing those children out there. They did look at the potential of having a pedestrian signal out there. They did not believe that would be warranted because it is a very small number of crossings and obviously only 2 times a day. And because it is a school crossing is the only reason that it's actually striped, because it normally wouldn't even meet the warrants to have it striped, but because of it's associated with that school route, that's why the striping is there. So.
And because of the size of the road, they have 2 crossing guards at each of those.
Can you share that study with me from 21? I'd love to read it.
I'll email it to
thank
everybody.
You.
Yes, Councilwoman Brodesky.
Thank you very much. The chronic offenders, the unreasonable 90%ers and higher, interested in figuring out how to reduce that, right? And so if we can target them, that would be fantastic. The being in La Mancha and seeing the Ponce driver, I know of a couple. So as our residents are identifying them, is there a way to report them Captain, to you or even to the Citizens Patrol or?
You can let us know the license plate number, and we may be able to go over and speak to them, but the problem is that's a civil infraction not committed in the presence of a law enforcement officer. So I can't cite them. I get videos from people all the time, and I'm like, hey, we'll send a deputy by to talk to them and show them the video, but as far as enforcement action, I can't do anything with it.
That makes sense. But as we know their pattern and they're coming through at a certain time, and we can report that, can we have someone there at
Once again, it's a manpower issue, ma'am, and
Sure.
that's just the honest truth. If we have a very violent domestic that sends people there, that's the priority, and that's how we're dispatched.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, I get that.
And that's the problem I face quite often. If I could just have my assets and my deputies sit on these avenues and just run radar all day, it would resolve the problem, but that's just not feasible. And another thing I failed to mention when I was up here earlier, as a means by which to try to approach this and provide the most effective coverage I can, we have 2 motorcycles and 1 traffic car. And I have 7 days a week to try to cover. I have 1 motor unit that covers Monday through Thursday. I have the other one covering Tuesday through Friday, then a traffic car covering Wednesday through Saturday, so I could try to provide optimum coverage. And with that traffic car, he works accidents too, so a lot of times he's pulled off.
Sure.
And he's responding to the accidents. And the road patrol deputies, they're out there next thing you know, and it's a problem I'm sure Mr. Laurie was familiar with back in the day too. And things have changed when I first started. Now we have body-worn cameras, so a lot of their time is now back at the district classifying videos from traffic stops or the paperwork involved with felony filing packets. It's not just all time on the road. There's a lot of administrative stuff that has to be done now that wasn't done and wasn't necessarily needed back when I started in the 80s.
But even with that, and the sheriff's office also saturates areas.
Yes.
Sometimes that's how the numbers are. I think you said 21,000 citations and warrants.
Last year, we did 18,700 traffic stops, resulting in 20,932 citations and warnings combined. And remember, not every traffic stop has just 1 citation. So you can get a citation for a tinted window,
Okay.
speeding, not wearing your seatbelt, whatever. So the number of citations actually exceeds the number of traffic stops.
So they are out there, they are warning them. The problem comes in, especially from a public perspective, is they know when cops are there, it makes a difference. But you can't have cops there all the time, but you do need them there enough to try to keep those 90-95%ers to an absolute minimum. We see the study, we have them out there, so that's why Chris was making a recommendation for the machines that will have to be able to get that data, and we will target the 90 and 95%ers. They're the same people driving on the road every day, and we will target them, and hopefully I have to pay a little bit higher insurance and some tickets.
Yeah. One more question regarding traffic calming. I saw all the modalities in there, and we've talked about those before. But Chris, is there an opportunity for us to put in bike lane dividers? Ironically, even though it's to protect the bicyclist, it also slows down drivers who are driving next to those bumpers.
We just need 2 more feet. So FD2 has changed their standards, and they are leaning. Everybody's moving towards that additional 2 feet to create the dividers. It depends on the roadway, and it's certainly something we could look into and potentially for grants, but I think it will come at the cost of landscaping if we were to increase the width of the roadways. Certain roads like Crestwood, I think everybody knows we're already down to 10-foot lanes, and it's pretty tight. So we would have to move things into that green area and get a little bit closer to the off-street pedestrian bicycle pathways that we have. So
Without rebuilding the road, that's what you'd have to do. Or you could lose a lane. But if you lose a lane, a counterintuitive thing that will happen is the congestion will double.
Yeah.
And if you think it's hard to pull out now, it'll be 3 times harder to pull out with 1 lane.
Sure.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
I just want to say, as someone who just had an accident on August 2nd, because somebody came in my lane speeding, going over a little 100 miles an hour on 95 and totaling my car, but I'm still here, thank you. While I understand that stating to increase the speed, it really would upset some people in order to make it more safer, just the statement itself, I do support their study, and it makes sense to me. It really does, to go from 35 to 40, and definitely for the signs. And I really want to thank PBSO and the captain, because my street has been a lot quieter than it was, especially since that one guy got stopped that was speeding down my street, and he got a big old ticket. So I just want to say thank you very much for that. So I do appreciate and support those changes wholeheartedly.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor.
My only comments are thank you very much for the exceptional study. It really, gave us a lot of data to base our information on. I agree with all the recommendations except for one, which is raising the speed limits, because I consider myself to be one of those reasonable drivers. I know what the captain knows. I know I don't travel the Crestwood North corridor a whole lot, but I do travel the Crestwood South, and it's 40. So that means, reasonable driver like me, I know I ain't getting a ticket till 46. Usually keep it between 40 and 45. I think if we do the same thing on the northern end, so now we've got reasonable people who say, okay, I was driving 42 when it was 35, so now that it's 40, I'm going to start going 47 because, I'm not going to get a ticket for it, and it's reasonable for me. I'm comfortable driving that. As long as I'm comfortable with it, then that's good. I think that's, and Sylvia, your 95 thing. If you're going the speed limit on 95, you're going too slow and you're going to get hit. So I just think raising the speed limit, I understand the reason behind it, but I also see the problems with it, because now you're up in the game. Now you're going to say, okay, because where was the highest, break was down, 40, I think it was 9. 85 percentile was 9 down in the section that I travel a lot. Now, I don't typically go that fast, but hey, people are going to do that. So if the people are going to go 9 over when it's 40, why wouldn't they go 9 over when it's 40 on the North Crestwood part?
Now, the study does touch on that.
Yes,
remember,
very
because,
much so.
and that's where that 85 percentile speed comes in, is that's the rational driver speed. That it becomes unsafe, particularly with Crestwood North. There's a lot of curvature on that road. It is not easy to stay in your lane and go 50 miles per hour, particularly if you have a big truck like myself. Like it would be difficult for me to make some of those turns and actually stay in the lane. So,
And to answer, you're right. Some people will do that, but we're not.
I think that's what a reasonable person would do.
But we're not talking about the minority. We're talking about a large group of people. The large group of people, and the traffic engineer will state this, the large group of people are not going to try. The speed won't be any different on the road with the speed at 40. It'll just bring the 10-mile-an-hour pace in. It won't. There'll be a few people that will go faster because of the speed limit sign, but they're going to go pretty close to what we already studied, because they're going because of the characteristics of the road and the other drivers.
I don't know. I travel Southern Boulevard every day, and those people aren't driving based upon the characteristics of the road. They're just but it is a different ballgame, because Southern's a major corridor. It's not this smaller road like Crestwood is, but those are my 2 cents.
it's a very straight roadway, and the reason
And
they
it's
have
50.
the speed limit is lower is because of the curve in the median. It makes it unsafe, but drivers don't perceive that, right? You got this beautiful straight road that's wide open, so that is one of the anomalies that are out there. So.
That's it. No, I just used it as an example because,
Okay.
yeah, it's scary on 95, and we're not in 95. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So where should I start? Let me just start with from my point of view. The numbers being one of the humans we're talking about, that appear on speed limit signs do actually enter my thought process. Now, at the end of the day, whether or not that's, and I would say it's probably not the determining factor in how fast I will drive. It is more the sense of what I feel safe at, which, by the way, opens up a wide variety of possibilities given individuals' experiences and capabilities. So I learned to drive on Sebring. I can drive at 120 miles an hour, 140 miles an hour. I can go through a corner at 60 miles an hour that most people wouldn't even attempt. So when we get into that human behavior thing, it's a wide open range. And I say that to basically just say I'm where the vice mayor is on the raising the speed limit. You heard me say it before. It's not only counterintuitive, the reaction would be even stronger than that. Having said that, though, I think there were two primary recommendations. One was raise the speed limit to get closer to an 85 percentile that would provide more dependable, predictable behavior, which, by the way, one of the things I learned driving at speed is the reason you can drive at those crazy speeds and get through those corners safely is because everybody is doing what you know they're going to do. Predictability. Totally agree. Having said that, the second recommendation is one that I think most of us, if not all of us, would agree to, and that is the purchase and the establishment of the signs at critical locations, strategic location, to use as a pilot effort to try to target those that are really reckless drivers, that are really doing, and usually on a repeated basis, the kinds of behavior and speeds that are of greatest danger. And so if I have the sense of the council correct, if you're looking for direction from the council on this matter as to what action to take given the study and the presentation, which, by the way, was very well done, I appreciate, then I would turn to the council and say, is there a motion to provide direction, or can we just provide direction? What would you all need from us? Okay, the policy changes.
To put up the
Okay,
radar.
so that's one motion that we could make then, to change the policy. Do we? Okay. So in order to make the change to the ordinance, so the direction.
Policy, it's just the policy. The radar feedback sign.
To be used on a collector road? Okay. Now, so do I have that motion?
I offer that motion the way he said it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Now,
We need a motion and a second on what direction you want to give us. You got the recommendations.
okay, do I have a motion?
A few more comments, though.
Sure.
So I like this idea of the pilot putting the signs out there and waiting to see if they are making a difference.
Okay.
If they don't, I'd like to revisit changing the speed limit.
Okay. Could that,
How does that work? Is that okay? Can we make that decision?
that's pretty clear guidance, right? Direction? Okay, so could we treat that as a motion as stated?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. That passes unanimously. We will be doing then a pilot effort in that direction. And do we define
We
a
didn't
period
set
of
a
time? A year, for a year.
For a year. Okay, I said that?
So
Okay, cool.
With that amendment, informally? Do I need to formally do that amendment to add the 1 year to the statement? Okay, all right, good. It was just my misunderstanding. That's fine. All right, so there's the direction. Thank you once again. I really appreciate it. It's well done. And we'll look forward to hearing the results.
Yep. Thank you.
That leaves us with one last regular agenda item, number 2, the adoption of resolution number 25-18, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Royal Palm Beach, Florida, supporting the renaming of a portion of Crestwood Boulevard. Seems like Crestwood Boulevard is our favorite topic tonight. South of Okeechobee Boulevard to Cocoa Plum Lane within the corporate limits of the Village of Royal Palm Beach to Virginia C. Baker Boulevard, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Bradford's not here, but I can handle this one. This is a county road from south of Okeechobee Boulevard. The county wanted to do this for Virginia right when she retired. They did ask our consent on it, but I couldn't give anything to them official because we had a process in doing that, and that part of that process was taking it to the Planning and Zoning Board and advertising it. We did all that, and now it's in front of you for the official vote.
Okay. Do anyone have any questions? Do we need to read the resolution?
You just did.
Enough of it?
Yes, that you read, yes.
Okay, good. No comments? No questions?
No, Mayor.
No cards? No hands?
No.
Thank you for that reminder. And so I will entertain a motion to approve resolution or the second agenda item on a regular agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to offer the motion that we approve agenda item number R2, the adoption of resolution number 2518, renaming that area of Crestwood to Virginia C. Baker Boulevard.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any opposed, it passes unanimously. And of course, we appreciate all the great work that Virginia did and will probably continue to do. And the fact that she is a resident of Royal Palm Beach makes us even prouder, right? Okay. Any further business to come before the council tonight? Not seeing any. This meeting is adjourned, and I thank you very much for a really good meeting.